All right, with me here today to talk about the war on oil and gas and the use of your money to do it is our friend Gina Pappano. And Gina is the executive director of Investnow. She's also got quite a background as a leader at the TSX. A warm welcome, Gina.
Thank you, David. It's great to be here.
Well, Gina, it's hard to believe, but just right off the top, is it an overstatement to say that there's a war on Canadian oil and gas?
No, unfortunately, it's not an overstatement. It's happening. There is a war against Canadian oil and gas, and it's being waged by our government, our financial institutions, and there's a lot of hostility towards the oil and gas sector in Canada. In fact,
Yeah,
it seems like people want to destroy it.
so they want to shut it down. And I guess the question off the top is to ask a crazy question: is that not a good thing? I mean, shouldn't we be doing that so that we can safeguard our environment and move away from oil and gas?
No, this is chasing an impossible dream. We need oil and gas. We will be needing oil and gas for a long time to come. We need Canadian oil and gas especially because we have good corporate governance. Our companies have environmental standards, very high environmental standards. And so just to do away with the Canadian oil and gas sector does not mean that oil and gas will stop being there will stop being a demand for oil and gas. That is not the case as
Indeed.
demand keeps going up.
And so, what I find fascinating is that we're going to dare to peel the perennial onion here as we talk about how they're going about this war and what this means for Canadians, because obviously energy is foundational to our way of life. So, before I kind of go into that background with your kind help, Gina, I did want to learn a little bit more about yourself. So, Gina, you've got quite a background within the financial industry, including working on the TSX. Can you tell us more about what you did there?
Yes, I was head of market intelligence for the Toronto Stock Exchange and TSX Venture Exchange, and I was doing that for 15 years. And it was really there because I'm from Toronto. It was really at the stock exchange that I learned about the importance of our resources sectors. But I learned the importance because we were in the group that I worked at. We were going around the world pitching companies to list on the exchanges, and the main reason was to access capital. And when I left the exchange to start Invest Now, I was seeing that people were trying to not have access to capital for oil and gas companies. They were trying to restrict capital. And I wanted to do something about that. And so I founded Invest Now to fight back.
So let's just back up for a sec. So it's fascinating. You're on certainly Canada's premier stock exchange. As companies from around the world come to list and try to raise money for their business to do everything, including employ people, and you noticed a particular pattern where there was an effort as years go by to basically throttle back the money available for Canadian oil and gas. In other words, oil and gas companies are finding it increasingly hard to even get a loan. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yes, it's becoming increasingly harder for companies to finance their operations, for oil and gas companies to finance their operations. And it is really nothing more than um, banks and financial institutions and endowment funds are caving to environmental and climate activists that are trying to push their ideologies. There's really been no, and so they're saying do not invest in oil and gas companies any longer. This will help the world.
Wow. So this is stunning because they basically want to shut it down and they're going about it in a particular way. So we're going to take the deep dive in that. But, I mean, this almost seems insane. It's almost like a kind of collective suicide of a nation when you talk about the need for affordable, reliable, dependable Canadian oil and gas. I mean, and what I find so outrageous about this, and I heard this internationally from actor after actor, is Canadian oil and gas has a fine reputation as a responsible corporate actor who does their work with great care, and they're one of the leaders. In fact, that's why a lot of Canadian oil and gas expertise goes around the world,
That's right.
all kinds of projects, and a lot of Canadians, frankly, don't realize this. But this is the reality. And then here we have other institutions and actors that we would trust, like our bankers, for instance, that are
Hmm.
actually behind the closed doors, or actually not even closed doors now, I guess, Gina, but
No.
trying to shut it down. This is crazy, isn't it?
Yes, oil and gas is one of our country's most productive sectors. And I guess the other piece of it is if you shut down the Canadian oil and gas sector, that does nothing to reduce the demand for oil and gas. So we're basically giving away our golden goose or shutting down our golden goose and
Hmm.
to someone else's or to another country's advantage. So we're giving
Yeah,
away our advantage for no solution. It's not helping matters. And we're just
it's really
really, as
absurd.
you said, we're killing an industry that's one of the most productive industries in Canada.
When in fact it could be used to our advantage. I mean, I still
Yes,
marvel that there's so many parts of our country, particularly in Eastern Canada, who still import oil and gas from corrupt regimes like Venezuela or you can name it. There's a whole list of them that
yes,
don't have human rights, quite frankly, and don't care about the environment the way we do. So this is just, isn't it hypocrisy?
yes, it is, and it's all based on ideology, not sound financial decisions. If a pipeline company can't build a pipeline, we have no way of getting our oil and gas to Eastern Canada. So there are,
Hmm.
regulation is working against us. Um, Financing is working against the oil and gas sector. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of hostility, and it's stopping the flourishing of our sector.
Well, and what's amazing, Gina, in your case, is that you have teamed up with a variety of other actors, and you're now in the role as executive director of Investment Now. What is Invest Now? What are you doing?
Well, Investnow was started to push back against what we call the divestment movement. So the divestment movement started 10 years ago. It's a global movement. Um, Big, well-funded players started it, and they started out at the universities, kind of protesting, saying that the university endowment funds should not be invested in any oil and gas companies. And then they've moved on now to pension plans, public pension plans, saying the same things, that they're demanding the same things, that public pension plans should not be investing in oil and gas companies. And now finally, they're even approaching banks and insurance companies saying, we should not be insuring oil and gas companies, and we should not be lending or investing in oil and gas companies. We should not be financing them. Banks should not be financing them. And
Okay, okay,
they've,
so can I just pause for a sec there
Mhm.
because this is kind of stunning. So you have taxpayer supported universities, places of
Mhm.
quote higher education that
Yes.
are using their monies and donations from people and saying we're going to take that money and we're going to forbid where the rules are we're not going to invest in Canadian oil and gas. Isn't that kind of
Yeah.
outrageous?
Oh, yes, it is. And I urge people to speak up about it. I think a lot of people don't know this, but they're basically Xing out the oil and gas sector from their investment pool. It's
Sorry,
wrong,
you
first
said
of all. They're not doing
Xing out.
well, they are eliminating the oil and gas sector from an investment pool. So they're not investing in any oil and gas companies, any new oil and gas companies. They're just saying no. So they're trying to starve the oil and gas sector of capital, and capital is required to build a business and to expand a business and to innovate in a business, provide jobs in a business. So there's,
Hmm.
you know, companies rely on capital, and the institutions are being asked to starve these oil and gas companies of capital.
Yeah, no, this is incredible. It almost sounds like a David and Goliath story. As
It is.
you were part of a group, and certainly at Frontier, we would be strong advocates and out of based in evidence and analysis that the oil and gas industry are a foundational component, not only for immediate energy, but it cascades right through the economy. It's like a domino in
Yes.
terms of,
Yeah.
manufacturing, forestry, mining, even the service economy, especially as we have the renewed emergence of technology in the form of artificial intelligence. All
Hmm.
these things. I mean, does anyone use a cell phone or a laptop? All these things are based ultimately on oil and gas. But these
Yes.
people don't get that, do they?
No, well, they don't understand the connection between, turning on or flipping a switch and having the lights come on and oil and gas and where it's all coming from and the need for reliability, um, reliability and affordability. That all comes from oil and natural gas. And right now, the renewable side, not it's not there yet. You can't just flip a switch, get rid of oil and gas, and go totally renewable. It's
Yeah,
it's
no,
not happening.
exactly. Well, what we've, I would always remark is it almost seems like we've got a whole cascade of public policies and quotes being used that are not really grounded in reality. So, for example, as much as people, not that one is against windmills per se, but you have to look at the true cost because all the green energy
Yes.
sources, whether it's, wind, solar, there's a whole list of them that are all fundamentally subsidized by the government. Is that a fair comment?
Yes, it is. And not to mention that they all need oil and gas to
Oh, yes, there
be
it
what
is,
they
oil and
are. You
gas
can't have
again.
a windmill without steel. There are a lot of issues, and you can't have solar panels without oil and gas, like the filaments, and um, it's just not possible to have the renewable sector without oil and gas. Every sector on the exchanges rely on oil and gas as a base or
Indeed.
foundation.
Yeah, so let's bring some reality therapy to this, whole set of delusional policies that are really leaving us astray. And carbon tax to boot. I mean, as that falls apart and all kinds of parties like, what is it, the current premier of BC, David Eby, has totally done a backflip away from the all kinds of policies, including now backing away from carbon taxes. So
Or emissions
the
caps,
question,
there's lots.
oh, everything, it's just unbelievable.
Without open discussion and debate, you're not thinking, nor are you free. Comment below. We'd love for you to join the conversation.